Welcome back to another episode of the Psychopedia podcast. I'm your co-host, Hank Sinatra, here with my august co-host.
I'm a guest, Investigator Slater.
Spelled like August, pronounced like August, synonym for distinguished, appreciable, substantial, prominent, eminent, preeminent. I mean,
Much
august
obliged.
is a great word.
It's a powerful word.
August.
It's giving Caesar.
Yeah.
Right? Augusto. I mean, that's not like a stretch. But...
No, I was there.
Oh.
I was there. Whatever.
The wavelength.
We had the path.
Got it.
Telepath.
The thing with the lady.
Yeah. Anyway, so welcome back to another episode. We are excited to be here. We're going to get into a case. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If this is your 100th time listening, welcome home.
Freak.
And as always, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. We are coming off of the tail end of what a month.
It's been packed, man.
Honestly.
It's honestly
been
packed with some,
controversy.
Intense cases.
But stories that need to be told. Sorry.
In my opinion, they do.
We do.
And we do it the best we can, and we do it, just impartially. But
as always, and the people who love us know that, as I've said many times, we don't make this podcast for people who don't like it.
True.
We make it for the people who do like it.
Right.
You.
Thank you for being you on the other side of this mic.
Exactly. It's a losing endeavor to try and please everybody. So what we do is we try and bring cases, or you try and bring cases that you think are important, that are stories that should and need to be told. And we're coming off of a 3-part Diddy case, 2-part Jay-Z episode, which is over on patreon.com/psychopediapod. Daniel Penny.
Luigi Mangione.
Whatever.
It's been a lot.
It's been a polarizing month, but, this is just going to be horrible, not controversial.
Right.
Right?
This is going to be gruesome.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how many people will have heard of this case. It's funny because I love true crime. I'm a true crime fan. So I know a lot of cases from that side of things.
Short for fanatic.
Right.
Continue.
Short for everything.
Yes.
Me. But I am on the other side of it, obviously, here at Psychopedia. Right? I'm presenting. So I need to curate cases and whatever. So in doing so, I kind of whatever I'm feeling, I start to explore. I'm feeling a serial killer, or I'm feeling a different part of the world, whatever.
Cults.
So I stumbled upon this case in my journey through topics. And my point is this, I had never heard of it before researching for this episode. So I wanted to bring it to everyone.
You remember the website Stumble Upon?
No, it does sound familiar though.
Oh, it was unbelievable. What a innovative piece of technology. It was basically like a dating app, but for websites.
Oh, interesting.
So you go to stumbleupon.com. It would say, hey, here's a website. And you go thumbs up or thumbs down. No, you don't pick anything. It just serves you. And it learns what you like. So it gives you more of what you like. But man, I missed that website.
It's pretty cool. Why isn't it around anymore? I guess everybody can search for everything now. You can do it on your own. You don't need a website to help you out anymore.
Yeah, exactly. If you're here and you're an avid listener and you haven't subscribed yet on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere, please do that. It's free to do. You can always unsubscribe. And most importantly, it means a lot to us when people do that. It makes us very, very happy.
Yeah.
Why won't you just subscribe?
Did you ever see the Chris Farley and Adam Sandler?
What did they say? Because that's what was going on in my head.
Why won't you just let him water your plants?
Well, I think
let the boy sleep in your bed.
Oh God, yes, it's a skit from SNL.
Yes, a great one.
I was thinking more Billy Madison. Why don't you just go to your home?
Oh, well, that too.
Yeah, but same vibe. Okay, so listen, no pressure, but it does make us very happy. And if you love us and you're already subscribed everywhere and you've rated and reviewed everywhere you can, join us over on patreon.com/psychopediapod, where you get more of us, which is a good thing. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I was going to say good or bad, but no, it's not bad. We're cool and great. And we do good stuff and we do cool stuff. And Patreon is amazing, and you get more episodes over there than you do over here. As a matter of fact, before we get into it, I'm going to read some Patreon names because we have a little, a cult of our own over there. I said cult weird, but...
It's okay. I also wasn't sure if I was going to fight you on that, as I have in the past.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let it go.
No, it's like a fun cult.
I know, I get it.
It's not like we're not asking...
It's a consensual cult.
Yeah, we're not asking anybody to leave their family. If the cops ever came, we'd tell them everything. You know? We got nothing to hide. We're just true criming and laughing and Tank's tidbitting around and eating and, you know.
Yep, new boot goofing.
New boot goofing. So here's a couple of Patreon names from over there. Alicia Rising, just a cool name.
I just thought of Bad Moon Rising.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yeah. Lindsay Nacho Twin.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not, but I still like you, Lindsay.
I know you not.
Uh-huh.
Great phrase.
Yeah.
Haven't heard it in a long time.
Okay.
Larissa Chavez.
Hey, Larissa explains it all.
Yes, Larissa explains it all. Slater explains it all. Fragility of Stability.
Sick.
That's you.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was you.
No, I called it out, but you wrote it.
Oh, wow.
I was like, fragility of stability.
Oh, yeah. It's coming back. Yep.
Fucking Pez dispenser. Alison Boita.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I take responsibility for that one. All About the Titties, which is an allusion to the Tank's tidbits that you get at the end of this episode.
Yes,
if you wait.
Are wonderful and your reward for making it through. So stick around to the end.
Little palate cleanser, which hold that thought. Sarah Stultz.
Hey, Sarah.
Cool name. And finally, the Jay-Z episode made me sign up for Patreon.
That's the name. Incredible.
That's the name over
Incredible.
there. So speaking of palate cleansers, we have another podcast that we've just recently launched called...
Oh, my God.
Give me a fucking drum roll, please. What?
It was fine. Keep going.
Give me a juicy purr.
Not everyone can be good at everything, Tank.
Oh my God.
Try to be supportive.
Tank's Good News, which is, I mean, the ultimate palate cleanser, not only from this, because we get heavy here, just from life in general. If you need something to brighten up your day, just go right over to wherever you're listening to this, type in Tank's Good News, and dig in and enjoy.
Yes.
Same brilliant narrative storytelling and fact weaving and fact finding and detailed research and analysis that she brings here. Same me over there, just totally different topics and a very different vibe.
The yin to the yang.
The yin to the yang. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
My mom is so pumped about the Tank's Good News podcast because she's worried about me doing true crime. She thinks as I've said, she thinks I'm Taylor Swift. She thinks I need a bodyguard around the clock.
Yeah.
So when I told her we were doing Tank's Good News, she was like, oh, okay, yes. I'm like, that's the little girl I raised.
Yeah. She doesn't know about your darkness?
Oh, she does.
Okay. All right. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Yeah, let's get into this week's case. Right. I'd love to hear what you have in store for us.
Across centuries and civilizations, vampires have been portrayed not only as relentless predators craving the warmth of human blood, but also as shadowy tempters cloaked in an otherworldly allure. Their ability to seduce and manipulate extends far beyond mere physical dominance and plunges into the depths of psychological horror. Vampires do not simply hunt. They ensnare. Like masterful puppeteers, they weave invisible strings around the minds of their prey, bending wills and dragging their victims into a chilling dance of subjugation, all in service of their ancient, insatiable whims. Should have brought my vampire fangs for this episode. What was I thinking?
What a miss.
What a miss. I almost want to stop recording.
Go home.
Yeah. Convincing others to join her in carrying out a brutal murder against an innocent victim was exactly what the perpetrator of today's case did to satisfy her insatiable thirst for blood. Driven by an insidious blend of manipulation and a dark, unrelenting hunger, this woman orchestrated a horrifying act that brought the mythical into chilling proximity with reality. This is the case of Tracey Wigginton, a.k.a. the Lesbian Vampire Killer.
What?
That's not my title. That's actually her stage name. That's that's her killer name.
So the media gave her the name like the Scissor Sisters.
Correct. Absolutely. Tracey Avril Wigginton was born on August 4th.
I think you would say Tracey Avril Levy.
I know. Trust me. Every time I see the name Avril in this case, which does pop up, I just think, why does everything have to be so complicated?
Just give me your blood.
Exactly. Tracey Avril Wigginton was born on August 4th, 1965 in Rockhampton, a small coastal city in northern Australia.
Ooh.
Her mother, Rhonda, initially raised her but relied heavily on Tracey's maternal grandparents, Avril and George Wigginton, for support.
What's up, George?
What's up, George? Avril and George had adopted Rhonda as a child and raised her alongside their other two adopted daughters, Doral and Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Avril, who's the grandmother of Tracey, Rhonda's adoptive mother, dominated the household and actively instilled in Rhonda and her sisters a starkly negative view of all men. She portrayed them as inherently evil, untrustworthy, and driven solely by predatory sexual motives.
So she would say, "See you later, boy."
However, the true threat to the girls came not from distant, faceless men, but from within their own home.
Yeesh.
Because Avril, under the guise of discipline, subjected Rhonda, Doral, and Michelle to severe physical, emotional, and psychological torment. Her punishments were both relentless and brutal, often involving electrical cords and chained hoses. What should have been a protective sanctuary became a place of fear and pain, leaving all their childhoods deeply scarred. The only hint of affection Avril ever displayed was reserved exclusively for the only beings she truly cared for, her giant-eared, tiny little, cherished chihuahuas. She showered the dogs with love and fiercely protected them at all costs while subjecting her three daughters to a world rife with fear, violence, and isolation.
Why wouldn't you adopt kids if you're just going to ruin their lives?
It becomes very clear.
Okay.
There is an answer to that, unfortunately. Rhonda and her sisters were forced to remain indoors for most of their lives with Avril and George, a calculated strategy designed to isolate them and tighten Avril's grip on their lives, leaving them with little exposure to the outside world and entirely dependent on her and her domineering authority.
Yeah.
So it's hardly surprising then that in 1965, Rhonda seized the opportunity to escape by marrying a local painter named Bill Rossborough and running away with him.
Wait, so Rhonda married in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
Tracey is the daughter of Rhonda. Rhonda is the daughter of Avril, the bad mom person.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. So Bill and Rhonda got married, and not long after that is when they welcomed their baby girl, Tracey. However, less than a year after Tracey's birth, Bill abandoned her and Rhonda, forcing the now single mother to move back in with her abusive parents, Avril and George. 4 years after that, Rhonda met a different man and skipped town, prompting Avril and George to formally adopt little Tracey by the time she turned 7. So you understand? Tracey's now been adopted by her grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something I haven't mentioned yet is that Avril and George were extremely wealthy and considered to be one of the area's most powerful and influential families. George was a self-made millionaire who owned a lucrative earth-moving business that drummed up an enormous number of government contracts. In fact, George was so well known and respected in Rockhampton, where they lived, that the local council even named a street after him.
George?
Yeah.
George Street?
Well, no, I don't think it was George. It was Wigginton. So at this point, Avril and George were raising Tracey along with one remaining adoptive daughter, Michelle, who also still lived in the Wigginton home. Yes?
I'm so weird about things that when we were looking for this house, there was houses that we were looking at on streets that I knew were going to be hard to spell to customer service people. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
It's totally relatable.
It is.
I drive past street names sometimes that are like not great words or like euphemisms or slang even for like, not great things.
Or they're spelled differently than normal.
And I'm like, I don't think I could buy a house on that street.
Yeah.
The treatment of Tracey and her aunt, technically one of the other adoptive original daughters, Michelle, were now living together in the home with Avril and George.
But Michelle was adopted.
Correct.
And Doral.
Correct. Doral's out of the house now, so we just have Michelle left, and now Tracey, because they adopted Tracey.
Oh, so Michelle is much older.
Yes, she is.
Oh, okay.
Not much, but older. And the treatment of the two girls, Michelle and Tracey, starkly contrasted. Initially, Tracey was completely doted on by Avril and was sent to a prestigious private Catholic school where she learned art, how to play the organ, and ballroom dancing. Michelle, on the flip side, continued to routinely bear the brunt of Avril's physical abuse and vitriol, which Tracey would witness on a regular basis. Avril would often lock Michelle in a dog cage overnight, something that, of course, deeply troubled Tracey, as she loved Michelle and hated to see her constantly being hurt and dehumanized.
She couldn't help her or let her out.
No, she was a little girl herself.
Yeah.
Plus the tables turned on her pretty soon. Avril would tell Tracey that Michelle was worthless and a bad influence on her and forbade the girls from playing with each other or getting close. That breaks my heart. You remember the case we did, the evil orphan
Foster?
Very good. Very good.
How could I forget that case?
And the obviously, that was a devastating case. The two little boys who were brothers were physically abused. And the part that haunts me, aside from every part, is when they pit the brothers against each other.
They forced them to fight.
Yeah. That
with weapons.
Haunts me.
Oh.
And this is similar in that they, would pit the girls against each other. And that breaks my heart because the only allies they really had were in each other because they were so isolated from the outside world.
Yeah.
But they were kept apart.
If you hit your kid really bad, like 3 or more times, I think you should something should happen.
Like go to jail?
Go to jail abandons the child. So I thought about that. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, maybe you're leaving this world net negative because not only are you fucked up, you're causing another person to be fucked up later on down the line, and you're causing their life to be fucked up right now. So yeah, your actions are criminal.
Keep that in mind because we explore sort of the ripple effect of abuse throughout this case, but towards the end, I kind of really highlight that.
Yeah.
And if it started with Avril, and you can see that, and then the downstream effect was catastrophic.
Of course.
And lethal.
Yeah.
For one person.
Yeah.
And once again, the real threat did not lie with the person being vilified. So when they're vilifying Michelle to Tracey, she's not the one to worry about. It came from someone else entirely who was meant to serve as a protector. And that was Tracey's grandfather, George. Because by the time Tracey turned 8, he had begun raping her on a regular basis.
George Wigginton? The earth mover entrepreneur?
Tracey, 8 years old.
Ugh.
At age 10, she evidently confided in a school friend about the assaults, but unfortunately, no intervention followed. Furthermore, Tracey's one ally, Michelle, ran away from home when she was 15, leaving Tracey in the brutal clutches of her adoptive parents. It wasn't until Tracey entered junior high school and got expelled for quote-unquote molesting other girls that the severity of her circumstances began to surface.
Yeah.
Children who experience sexual abuse can sometimes display sexually abusive behavior toward other children.
Yeah.
And this is due to a complex phenomenon involving various psychological, environmental, and social factors, such as imitation of learned behaviors, distorted perceptions of normal behavior, right? So you don't understand what a healthy, normal relationship and appropriate boundaries look like.
Yeah.
So you don't even realize what you're doing is a problem. Trauma reenactment. That's heartbreaking.
This is what life is like. This is what I'm going to do.
Exactly. And just seeking affection and connection and not knowing any other way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, Tracey was quite tall for her age. Unrelatable. She was she was typically the tallest girl in her grade and at times was the tallest amongst all her peers. It's said that Tracey was feared by many of her classmates who often called her strange and evil. Then, in 1979, George died of cancer, followed just 2 years later by Avril.
Nice.
Tracey inherited $75,000 at just 15 years old, which she instantly blew on egregious non-essential items like a motorcycle, alcohol, and new clothing.
As would I have done.
As I think would anyone at that age. After the deaths of Avril and George, Tracey's behavior spiraled into increasingly disturbing ways. First, she vandalized her Aunt Doral's home.
He was a multimillionaire and he had $75,000 to leave?
Yeah, I guess he probably also left some to Doral, some to Michelle. It was, but yeah.
He left millions to both of them.
Yep, or somewhere else.
Fucker.
She did inherit more as she got older, which you'll hear, but,
okay.
but not substantially given how much he had.
Yeah.
So Tracey vandalized her Aunt Doral's home. She spray painted swastikas and obscene language across the property in an act of shocking defiance. Next, she brutally attacked a man whom Avril had entrusted before her death to watch over Tracey. The assault left this man with severe head injuries that required hospitalization. And by the age of 16, Tracey's turmoil took another turn, whereby she engaged in a sexual relationship with a married man, became pregnant, and ultimately had an abortion. Needless to say, given everything that happened and was happening in Tracey's life, it's perhaps unsurprising that she chose to drop out of school in 1982 at the age of 17.
Yeah.
Now, Tracey had always been aware of her sexual orientation, but Avril, refusing to accept this aspect of her identity when she was still alive to rule with an iron fist, prohibited any discussion or expression of it within the home.
Oh, wait, you said she was molesting other girls, which is why she got expelled, right?
No, she dropped out of school, but originally, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot that she was a lesbian. I just thought it was like a more of a power thing, which I'm sure it was also.
I think it was mostly that.
Yeah.
Consequently, Tracey was compelled to hide her sexuality, given who Avril was, and cloak her true self while likely internalizing a sense of shame about who she was.
But evil Avril's dead, so who cares?
Well, that's exactly right. Now that she was basically completely independent, 17-year-old Tracey decided to fully embrace her sexuality and true identity.
Okay.
She adopted the nickname Bobby, cut her hair short, and took a job as a bouncer at a gay club, having grown at that point to a formidable 5 foot 10 inches and weighing 240 pounds. People in her network used to refer to her as the, quote, butch bitch from up the hill.
You know, Bobby, that butch bitch from up the hill.
So Tracey's personality at this point took a darker and more unsettling turn, alarming those around her. Her roommate watched as Tracey's once cheerful artwork filled with roses and delicate flowers shifted into haunting depictions of frightening mythical monsters.
So Tracey lived with somebody.
She had a roommate, yeah.
Okay.
Demons, gargoyles, and pentagrams began to dominate her drawings as though her inner turmoil spilled out onto the page.
As it does.
But Tracey didn't stop at paper. She carved pentagrams into the backs of her hands with a knife, the raw wounds and outward reflection of her growing obsession with the macabre.
Oh.
Her new obsession with knives became an integral part of her daily life as well.
Like Cash.
Knives? Cash?
No, integral.
Oh, yeah.
That ad that always runs?
Yep. He's an integral part of this podcast.
How important is Cash to this podcast? Oh, he's integral. That's somebody's Patreon name.
Sick.
Cash is integral or something like that.
Amazing name.
Yeah.
So Tracey began tucking into her left boot a knife, and she'd carried around like a talisman, always ready and having it close at hand. Her wardrobe turned as dark as her thoughts, black leather from head to toe, accented by a silver pentagram buckle on her belt. Tracey retreated further and further into herself while outwardly cultivating an aura of defiance and menace. And let me state, obviously, if you're into witchcraft or pentagrams or wearing black, obviously, I'm not suggesting that everybody who does that has inner demons that are reflecting on the outside by any means. But in Tracey's case, this is what was going on.
What is a talisman?
I think it's like a something you carry around, like it's your luck.
Ward off evil spirits?
Exactly. It's like not good luck, exactly, but it's
protective. Doesn't she want
protective
evil spirits? Maybe it brings evil spirits?
Well, I said like a talisman. I didn't say it was a talisman.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, tell me by Nana. Yep.
It's just thought to have magic powers and bring good luck.
Got it. Okay.
Tracey moved to the seaside resort of Cairns, a place that should have offered peace, solitude, solace. Yet even the warm ocean breeze could not dissolve the bitter truth that Tracey, wherever she was, seemed to stand amidst the wreckage of her past, a figure cloaked in isolation, grief, and the inescapable shadows of her own making. And not just her own making, P.S., but her childhood as well.
Yeah, if you don't have it in you, you can't express it. There's my mom, when I first got sober, gave me a picture of like the beach, and it said, "Beauty cannot be perceived but with a serene mind," which is a Henry David Thoreau quote.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. So this led Tracey, tragically, to do which of the following things? Pop quiz. A, turn to sex work. B, carry an actual security blanket around for comfort.
Okay.
C, adopt an alter ego named Fred. D, all of the above.
So because she moved to this seaside town and she couldn't find solace there, she did something else,
Yes.
right? Became a sex worker, security blanket, right said Fred, or all of the above.
Drop dead Fred.
Drop dead Fred. Oh, fuck. This is a good one. Sex worker, blanket, Fred, D.
It's not slapping your penis around on a canvas good.
Yeah,
But...
not a penis painting prodigy good. C.
Adopt an alter ego named Fred.
Yeah.
That's one thing she did.
B.
That's one thing she did. Oh, it's like, dang. I'm not telling you this, buddy, but...
She did all of that.
Yeah, she did. She did all of that, which is very sad.
Yeah.
So we begin at this point seeing some symptoms of dissociative identity disorder, or DID, which we are definitely going to explore in more depth as we dive into her psychology more.
Mm-hmm.
She began to carry around an old pillowcase that she affectionately named Bilo. She often used it as a scarf, would gently caress her face with it, tuck it beneath her clothing, and sleep with it at night. If she ever misplaced Bilo, she would become absolutely frantic, as it had become a significant source of comfort and security for her. She's spiraling at this point.
Which I get, by the way.
I do too. I definitely not relate.
People,
God forbid I didn't have the childhood she had, but I understand.
No, I'm talking about having something that's important to
Exactly.
you.
I was going to say I understand that descent and then gripping onto something, anything that gives you consistent comfort.
Well, people, I mean, they think it's normal to be so attached to your cell phone because whatever. Brian Regan has a bit about, watching a kid with a balloon floating away in front of him at a carnival.
It's so devastating.
And the guy, the dad's like, calm down, it's just a balloon. And he was like, that's everything he has. What if your cell phone just floated out of your pocket and started drifting off into the sky? How would you feel?
Not good.
How would you react? Yeah.
Like a maniac.
Exactly.
Chasing after it.
Or your wallet or whatever.
Right.
It's
true.
So
she's spiraling, which of course is exactly when two things happened.
Okay.
One, she inherited an additional $80,000 from her grandparents since she turned 21, which, true to form, she blew through almost immediately on bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And two, she began dating a petite blonde woman named Sunshine, a toxic relationship that quickly revealed numerous red flags. Tracey often wore a collar around her neck, secured with a lock for which Sunshine held the only key. Despite Sunshine's repeated infidelity with both men and women, Tracey forgave her time and time again, enduring the pain and humiliation that came with it. Yet, despite the glaring red flags, Tracey and Sunshine went ahead and got married, exchanging vows in a ceremony officiated by a Hare Krishna devotee. Do you know the Hare Krishna movement?
Indian?
Yeah, it's a branch of Hinduism founded in the 1960s, and it centered its teachings on the worship of Krishna as the supreme god.
There was a band called 108 in the New York City hardcore scene who was Hare Krishna, and they had like the ponytails and the gowns.
Oh, cool.
And everything, yeah.
Devotees share communal vegetarian meals, they live in temple communities, and condemn sexual indulgence as a major barrier to spiritual growth, with monks embracing celibacy and followers restricting sex solely for procreation.
Wow.
Anyway, it didn't take long for Sunshine to leave Tracey for a man, causing Tracey once again to grapple with feelings of abandonment and loss. It was at this point when she decided to do which of the following things? Tank. PQ. A, began attending funerals of strangers, claiming she was channeling the spirits of their deceased loved ones.
With Will Ferrell, got it.
With Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers. B, intentionally got pregnant by the man who owned the club where she bounced. C, physically assaulted Sunshine's new lover while cursing all men everywhere.
Physically assaulting Sunshine's new lover, getting pregnant by the bouncer, and don't tell me, crashing funerals. Okay. See?
Nope.
Wow. Okay, so it was one of the other really strange ones.
Mm-hmm.
A.
Nope.
B.
Yep.
Wow.
In front of an audience of 6 friends, Tracey deliberately had sex with the owner of the club where she worked, her sole intention being to get pregnant, a plan that succeeded, at least initially. Because
like she said she was going to do it, or they had sex in front of 6 people?
No, they had sex in front of 6 people, but her sole goal for having sex, she's not even interested in men, was to get pregnant.
Oh, yeah. keep forgetting that.
However, she soon miscarried, a loss that plunged her deeper into despair and emotional turmoil.
Some people just can't catch a break.
Yeah. At this point, we still feel for her. So, yeah.
Well, she's had a horrific life up to this point.
True. Very true. In her grief, Tracey turned further toward the occult and immersed herself in practices such as holding seances, reading tarot cards, and regularly consulting with a white witch in Adelaide.
What does a white witch mean?
Somebody who claims to use magic for good or benevolent purposes.
Okay.
Although Tracey's descent seemed to be anything but. Around, good one. Around this time, Tracey gathered 3 like-minded women, forming what could be described as a coven, but I don't really want to call it a coven because there are real covens, people who really, believe that they're doing witch things, and I don't want to just call it a coven. I think that'll be disrespectful, but in my mind, I see it as like a coven.
Coven sounds, I'm speaking from zero experience here. Sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah, especially for someone like me.
A coven of like a group of people that you like really...
Like-minded spiritual beings.
Deep connection.
You guys really together are performing magical acts. Oh, yeah, I love it.
I don't know if I'd say they're really doing magical acts.
I don't
trying.
I don't believe that this group in this case was doing anything real except real horrible shit.
Yeah.
But I do believe in witchcraft.
So do I.
I held seances when I was younger, as we know, and I conjured spirits on the real.
And that is how you flew?
No, that was a separate incident.
You think so?
I know so.
You don't think they were interrelated, your ability to conjure spirits and your ability to fly?
Oh, I think they're related in a sense that I am like of a different realm and I have connections and stuff like that. Yes.
For sure.
But I don't think I was like taken over by a spirit that flew my form.
I never said anything about a spirit.
That's how I heard it for some reason.
No.
Okay, yes, I think it's connected.
You are of a different dimension for sure.
Word.
Obviously.
So together, these women explored their shared fascination with the supernatural and dark arts. Tracey dyed her hair midnight blue and adorned her body with tattoos now, including pentagrams, the Eye of Horus, which is an ancient Egyptian symbol believed to possess protective magical power, her zodiac sign, Leo, a black rose, Merlin the magician, and the interlocking female gender symbols. So she's now tatted up.
Okay. No hocus pocus tats?
No.
That was a coven, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved hocus pocus.
Fun coven.
Yeah. There's a movie, Nicole Kidman, Sandra Bullock. I can't believe I can't remember the name of this movie. I think an early 90s movie, maybe. Anytime it's available, which is everywhere now because I have streaming like most normal human beings, I watch it. But I'm saying if I'm on a flight and it's randomly offered, I'm watching it.
Yeah. Practical magic.
Practical magic.
This one has Sandra Bullock in it, though.
I said that.
Not Bullock.
Oh, fuck you.
So
She's my girl, not yours. She's mine. So Tracey's artistic expression also took an even darker turn than it previously had. She continued drawing disturbing figures like grotesque hybrids of animals and humans, and she developed an obsession with horror movies, replaying scenes of maiming and killing with unnerving focus. Her rituals grew more extreme. She began using animal blood as well as her own blood and would cut herself to create patterns that she claimed held power. Tracey carried a black cloth bag filled with tarot cards and an animal bone, further embracing the trappings of her occult practices. The coven's rituals escalated as well, with drunken seances regularly conducted in graveyards under the cover of night. Which sounds like a good time. According to Australian forensic psychologist Gary Harding, Tracey's behavior at this point reflected a profound rebellion against her strict Catholic upbringing. He said, quote, Tracey was one of those people who took diametrical opposition to her own upbringing. She wanted to rebel against her family, her grandmother, mother, and their Catholicism. It was a form of defiance, a form of control.
I could see that.
Me too.
I could see it's weird how things turn out. Usually not in the case of abuse, because that her upbringing was horrific. I would do everything I could to distance myself from that. But when people grow up in a certain type of household, some replicate it. Some kids go the exact opposite way.
So one of my close friends was never allowed to have sugar when she was growing up at all.
Yeah.
And now,
She owns a candy store.
no, this is like a legit thing. When dessert comes out at the table, she told me, she's like, every single time we get dessert, I get anxiety because I want to take the entire thing before I'm told I can't have any. It's like a thing when I'm like, oh, we're going to split dessert. It gives her anxiety, and I understand that.
Yeah, same.
So I'm like, let's get two.
Same here, yeah. Maybe that's why I eat in the middle of the night. I've thought about that before.
Really?
Like my little 9-year-old inner fat kid is waking up like, Mom's not here, dude.
Do what you want.
You can eat whatever you want.
Now, let's delve into the eerie dynamics of this close-knit circle of women. The members, Lisa Pachinski, age 24, Kim Jervis, 23, and Tracey Waugh, 23, were all united by their sexual orientation and a shared devotion to dark occult practices or their interpretation of it.
Is Tracey Waugh our Tracey?
Nope, that's Tracey Wigginton.
Wigginton.
Right. And they shared sort of a lot of things in common with their enigmatic leader, Tracey Wigginton, who by this point was 24 years old and stood at 6 feet tall, 209 pounds.
Enigmatic and Wigginton in one sentence was a really courageous.
She was ambitious.
Yeah.
I don't think I nailed it, but maybe I got the bronze. I can live with that.
I understood.
So these women, shrouded in the mystique of their clandestine gatherings, were profoundly influenced by Tracey's charismatic but perilous leadership, even when her demands verged on the absurd and eventually homicidal.
When is the book coming out?
Let's go. Seriously.
Give me a date.
Okay. What's today's date? The 14th? How about the 15th?
Of January?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go. For instance, Tracey wielded such influence that she convinced her followers of her supernatural abilities, such as making herself vanish, leaving only her quote-unquote cat eyes glowing ominously in the dark. She further manipulated them into believing that her survival depended on consuming fresh blood. Through intimidation, coercion, and manipulation, Tracey expertly bound these vulnerable women tightly under her spell in their isolated world of ritual and darkness. It is said that these women were in absolute awe of their fearless leader, the lesbian vampire killer. Lisa, Kim, and Tracey Waugh each faced their own personal struggles, vulnerabilities, and issues that may have rendered them particularly susceptible to Tracey Wigginton's influence.
Yeah.
Much like followers drawn to into the orbit of a charismatic cult leader, they seemed to gravitate towards Tracey's commanding presence and the dark allure that she embodied.
It's very hard to not fall for people who tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah. And when you feel so on the outskirts of mainstream to feel connected to people or a person, I get the pull.
I met some guy in California at this
workshop?
Spiritual community.
Was it the Relax Your Genitals experience?
No, this was a place where I found...
Jesus?
No, I found a space to give my holy fit, get in shape from the inside out.
I loved that idea.
And this guy said something to me, and he nailed it. And I spent years and years thinking this guy was like a genius. He was probably just like some,
But he offered you a genius, helpful piece of advice or wisdom or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So he was a genius. What was it, by the way?
I was talking about my need to be in shape, vanity, whatever, and my insecurities and my codependency. He goes, so you feel like if you get in good enough shape, you don't have to worry about these girls leaving you. And I was like, yes. Yeah. Because I never got out of shape when I got into relationships. If anything, I was like, I got to go even harder.
Right.
It's like when you go from having no money to having money. A lot of people that don't have money don't realize this. When you get money, or when you get a lot of money, your fear of losing it is even greater than your fear of not getting it.
Right. So Tracey's ability to manipulate and dominate these women was not unlike the psychological tactics employed by cult leaders, exploiting their insecurities, offering them a sense of belonging, like we said, and weaving an ideology that justified their increasingly extreme behavior. For Lisa, Kim, and Tracey Waugh, Aligning themselves with Tracey Wigginton may have felt like a path to empowerment or escape from their personal turmoil, even as it led them deeper into her sinister world.
Yeah, I can see
Lisa
that.
had been hospitalized 80 times in 5 years for self-harming and or drug overdoses. Tracey Waugh was described as a quote-unquote shy Catholic private school girl who truly believed that her leader was the devil's bride and also telepathic. And Kim, who previously collected dolls and Garfield cats and contemplated becoming a nun, had been told after breaking a crucifix necklace that she was a chosen one. Tracey Wigginton also made her believe that she was a destroyer who had the power to rip the arms off anyone who stopped her from feeding on blood.
Wow.
This dynamic of this little cult or coven or whatever we want to call it.
Sounds, going back to what you said about it not being a coven and you not wanting to call it a coven, I'm with you now.
Oh, good.
Does sound like more of a cult.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So their dynamic marked a dangerous turning point, with Tracey's growing influence steering the group towards actions that crossed the line between alternative and depraved. Tracey, knowing exactly what she was doing, shrouded herself in an aura of darkness and mystery to solidify her followers' belief in her supernatural, vampiric existence. She shunned sunlight and moved exclusively under the cloak of night, while avoiding mirrors and lurking in cemeteries. At home, bats that she kept as pets would flutter in the dim corners while she drank grocery store-obtained pig's blood. Yet, the sustenance of swine was not enough for Tracey's intensifying craving.
Why?
The vampire had a fever, and the only prescription was human blood.
Say that last line one more time.
I tried to be Christopher Walken. This vampire had a fever.
Had what?
A fever. Pick however you want to say it. There is no wrong way.
There is.
There isn't.
You just said it the right way, so good for you.
Because I copied Christopher Walken.
Oh, okay. Who is obviously...
Don't you do a good Christopher Walken?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I don't know.
This is blowing my mind. Say the sentence.
I know.
This vampire had a fever and the only prescription was human blood. Go.
This vampire had a fever and the only prescription was human blood. Good? It felt a little weak, but...
It was excellent. I put you on the spot, too. That was very good. So Tracey began slicing the veins of the women in her group in order to suck their fresh, flowing blood. Lisa, whose blood was Tracey's favorite, also because they were hooking up, would later say that Tracey was like a shark in a feeding frenzy.
Oh, yeah.
Clinical vampirism, more commonly known as Renfield syndrome, after the fictional mortal character in Dracula, is a rare condition characterized by a compulsive urge to drink blood, a fascination with the dead, and an uncertain sense of identity. The mythology of vampirism has its roots in several religions and cultures, and the definitions vary widely.
Yeah.
Vampires in mythology are usually defined as being undead, immortal, shadowy figures that cross the divide between the worlds of the living and the dead at will. They are powerful creatures that elicit fear and fascination and take their power from others. In psychiatric texts, clinical vampirism is often defined as a belief in blood-sucking beings that drink blood for sexual pleasure and often involve a necrophilic element.
Isn't that picarism?
Could be. At picarism, I think it's more obscure things like mattress foam and...
I thought picarism was the use of blood in a sexual fashion.
First of all, I'm thinking of pica, and no, picarism is the stabbing fetish.
Okay.
So we were both wrong.
Great memory, though.
Others feel that it's associated with a schizophrenic disorder, and some do not consider it a real condition at all. In fact, vampirism has never gained official recognition by the psychiatric profession and is not found in any edition of the International Classification of Diseases or the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Stuff like that, I'm always very interested in which came first. Like, did the mythological idea of vampires arise from fiction and then people started to emulate it unwillingly?
Right.
Or were there people hundreds and hundreds of years ago who had Renfield
syndrome,
who had Renfield syndrome undiagnosed, and they gave them a a non-medical name to describe them.
So obviously you raise an incredible point that I came across in my research, like the chicken or the egg, what came first? And
for everything, by the way.
For everything. But one of the examples with respect to vampirism was Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes.
And these texts were like, were there characters like her, or legends, lore, whatever you believe, like her, that then created this, like, followers, basically, to follow suit, and then it became a thing? Or was it an actual thing?
I feel like the actual thing probably came before the mythology, and then the lore and the mythology developed into them being undead and immortal and all that.
Like maybe some of the details developed over time.
Well, just like that scene in Braveheart where Mel Gibson walks up to the opposing forces and they're like, William Wallace, we would have thought you'd be 8 feet tall because of the stories around him and how his warrior skills or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, things get out of hand.
Yeah. And regardless of the underlying reasons for Tracey's desire to drink blood, whether it stemmed from a genuine belief that she needed it to survive, or it was a play for attention or to assert control, or it stemmed from a psychological compulsion, Tracey and her culty coven made the decision to take a human life. On the evening of October 21st, 1989, Tracey, Lisa, Kim, and Tracey spent 2 hours drinking a sweet sparkling wine called Riccadonna Spumantiat. I can't wait for Australians to rip me a new one with that.
You think that's Australian?
Oh, I don't know. No, it's Italian. I just meant it might be popular in Australia.
The Australians. Spumante.
Oh, I never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a restaurant.
No, I was... Right, you're a restaurant guy.
I also know everything. Oh, you thought I was going to say because I'm an alcoholic?
Yes.
No, I was not drinking Spumante.
Yeah, but the fact that you knew it, whatever. I'm not like a drinker at all.
That's all restaurant. I was drinking Georgie vodka.
Okay. Is that good or bad?
Horrible.
Oh.
Comes in a plastic bottle.
Eee.
In big sizes.
It's like boxed wine.
Oh, I love box wine.
I did too in college.
Yeah.
It was $5 and it was my entire night.
A gallon. Yeah.
Anyway, they spent the entire night drinking that sweet sparkling wine at a club called L'Amour's, located in Brisbane's Fortitude Valley.
Oh, I thought there's one that used to be in Brooklyn.
I'm sure. As the night progressed, their sinister intentions took hold. They set out in Tracey's green Holden Commodore, hunting the streets in search of human prey, looking for someone whose life they could cruelly drain away. Pop quiz.
Ooh.
Which musician or band did they blast from their car while they were hunting? A, Prince, B, Metallica, C, Queen.
B.
No.
You told me too, by the way, with your face and eyes. But I thought that was you telling me it was it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I got a good poker face. I don't know what you're looking at.
Prince or...
Queen.
Queen? Queen.
Nope.
Well, I'm back. We are so back, baby.
Prince. I don't know. It's such a bizarre visual. This whole thing.
People love him. I have not fallen for him yet.
You know what? Actual incredibly gifted musicians love him.
Oh yeah.
That's how
he's
you
like
know.
He's like your favorite
Prodigy.
artist's favorite artist.
Yes, exactly.
I have been listening to Big Pun though. Side note. You know Big Pun?
Yeah, Big Punisher?
Yes. Whatever. I won't even get into that right now.
Yeah.
But just
I was thinking you were going to say Eric Clapton for some reason. I could not have been more wrong.
No.
On that one. The waning moon that night was 80% visible in the night sky above Brisbane, illuminating the area significantly and providing little cover for a 47-year-old man named Edward Balduck. Edward, a married man and father of 5 and grandfather of 2, just left the Caledonian Club in Kangaroo Point, where he kicked back several drinks and played darts with some friends.
With some kangaroos. He was being carried home in a kangaroo's pouch. The kangaroo had a rolled ankle, so it couldn't get away from the coven. Armed with only a boomerang. Oh, God. I am truly sorry, Edward.
So Edward, as I said, was coming out of the Caledonian Club.
Yes.
And he was drinking. He had played darts. He was actually in a competition, which he won. He was having a great night. The slight, balding, kindly man was very intoxicated and had been leaning against a lamppost for stability as he made his way down O'Connell Street just before midnight. Then a green Holden Commodore with 4 women inside pulled up beside him.
A green what?
Holden Commodore. It's the car.
Oh.
Tracey said something to Edward, though her exact words remain unclear, but it was enough to coax the inebriated man into the car. Then Tracey instructed Lisa, who was driving, to head towards the large shed located at Orley Park, which curved around the lip of a bend in the Brisbane River from the West End Ferry Terminal to Riverside Drive.
Mm-hmm.
After parking near the secluded riverbank, Lisa led Edward down to the water's edge with Tracey trailing behind. Soon realizing her own knife would be inadequate for the grim task ahead, Tracey returned to the car where she then relinquished Lisa's silver ninja butterfly knife, which was her usual protection for nights out in the valley anyway.
Mm-hmm.
As this was happening, Edward methodically removed all of his clothing, leaving on only his socks, and folded them neatly in a pile beside him. And this is why many believe that Tracey posed as a sex worker when she lured Edward into the car.
Oh, yeah.
Because he took off his clothing, he folded it, and he neatly put it to the side. Back at the river, under the dim glow of moonlight filtering through the trees, Lisa engaged Edward in conversation. Then, without warning, Tracey emerged from the shadows, wielding the knife. As Edward turned to question her actions, Tracey struck, plunging the knife deep into his back down to the handle.
Oh, fuck.
As Edward reached out in a desperate attempt to defend himself, Tracey delivered a second, more vicious stab to his neck.
Same knife?
Yep.
So she pulled it out?
Mm-hmm. Ripping his hair, Tracey then sharply pulled Edward's head back and slashed his throat, opening a wide, gushing wound the size of a bread and butter plate. That's what it's referred to. I looked it up. That's about 6 inches.
Wait, what? What was that? What is bread and butter plate?
The size of the wound. She later indicated that her goal had been to cut so forcefully that she would also crack his bones in the process. And when stabbing up through his neck, she'd wanted the blade to reach his nose.
She also, I forget,
6 feet tall.
240 pounds.
Yeah, I think she's 209 at this point, but the brutal assault that ensued was a frenzied and relentless barrage of stabbings, so vicious that it nearly decapitated Edward. The only reason his head remained attached to his body was because the spinal cord kept it technically intact.
Is that why you cringed a little bit before when I said fucking Pez dispenser is one of the Patreon names?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of wishing I didn't say that name.
Even though the spinal cord kept the head intact, it still had been 3/4 of the way cut through.
He was dead at this point.
Nope, he wasn't.
What?
The carotid artery on the left side of Edward's neck was completely severed, and the adjacent artery on the right was partially severed. And as Edward bled out and gargled, that's how we know he was still alive. What did Tracey do? She nonchalantly lit a cigarette, with her cold gaze fixed on Edward as life ebbed away from him. She later confessed that she felt nothing watching him die, even after Edward made that gurgling noise as blood spilled from his mouth.
Realizing something right now as you talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason these people feel nothing or have such a hard time processing emotions is because as a survival tactic growing up, they had to do that. And they never lose it.
And in her case, developed real psychological conditions that created intentional barriers to prevent her from experiencing things firsthand, which we're getting to. I mentioned it a little bit already.
Detachment, dissociation, all that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Man.
That, and then of course, there's just the notion of psychopathy.
Which to me sounds like somebody who had to protect themselves growing up in an environment that was abusive or whatever.
Lisa returned to her car as Tracey buried her face into the open cavity of Edward's neck and drank his blood.
Our Tracey?
Yep. After the other Tracey waited in the car. with Kim. After about 15 minutes, Tracey threw her knife into the Brisbane River, washed herself off with the cold water, and returned to the car with her friends.
Wow.
Edward remained eviscerated on the ground in a fetal position near the river beneath the moon, a gruesome sight that Tracey brought Kim and Lisa, because Lisa had actually returned back to her car before the actual murder.
Wait, who did?
Lisa. So Lisa brought Edward down to the river. And then once Tracey lunged at him with the knife, she flew the coop and went back to the car. So then Tracey Wigginton brought Lisa back to see the body, as well as Kim. The only one who never was at the actual scene of the crime in terms of like where his body was Kim.
Okay.
As the women drove away, Tracey Waugh noticed the distinct scent of blood lingering on Tracey Wigginton's breath.
Oh, my
and Kim
God.
apparently said that she looked like she'd eaten a 3-course meal. Then each woman went back to their respective home, and life for them went on for a few hours because there was one major hiccup. When Tracey Wigginton reached her apartment in the northwestern Brisbane suburb of Inagera, she realized that she'd left her Commonwealth Bank key card at the scene of the crime.
Oh, my God.
A literal calling card.
Yeah.
So before the first light of dawn, she returned to the riverbank to search for it, but she wasn't able to locate the card. A few hours later, in the early morning daylight, a rower named Stephen Caron discovered the naked, mutilated body of a man curled up in a fetal position, riddled with stab wounds. Edward Clyde Balduck had suffered 27 stab wounds, mainly to his neck, with additional stab wounds piercing the left and right sides of his torso. His upper back and shoulders bore puncture marks, and there was disturbing evidence that fingers had been forced into some of the wounds. When police arrived at the scene and rolled Edward's body over, his head remained in its original position.
Oh, God.
Causing it to face the opposite direction. This poor man. Officers found Edward's blue wallet, so they were able to immediately identify him. They also found something else hidden in one of his tan-colored shoes. A Commonwealth Bank key card belonging to Tracey Wigginton.
She put it in his shoe?
She didn't. Okay, so the card was shoved all the way down towards the toe area, suggesting that somebody, maybe it was Edward, planted it there. Some theories are Edward planted it there maybe because he planned on like trying to use it to rob, basically.
How would he have gotten that though?
The bank card?
Yeah.
I think it probably fell out. And then he obtained it and was like, oh, I'm going to stash this away for later use. Some people think maybe Lisa planted it. And then there's just the idea that it happened to fall in there. It's just that it was very low down. That's where it gets tricky. Law enforcement seemed to have felt that Edward hid it there. Again, whether he tried to use it later or whether somehow during the attack he saw it and he wanted law enforcement to be able to identify her. We just don't know.
Or he was like, yeah, I'm going to pay for this, but I'm going to get my money back.
Right. Robbing, taking it back, But Senior Sergeant Pat Glancy later said, quote, he, meaning Edward, by putting it up in his shoe, helped us to solve his murder. It was just an unbelievable clue.
Mm-hmm.
So they believe he did it. Because right after discovering the card, law enforcement, of course, made a beeline for Tracey's home. Coincidentally, just 19 minutes earlier, Edward's wife, Elaine, had called the police to report him missing, so all the pieces were beginning to fall into place, linking Tracey to the crime.
Yeah.
And when they arrived at her door, she claimed that she had, in fact, been near the river the night before, and that must have been why she lost her card, as she and some of her friends went on the swings at a playground at the park, insisting, as she would, that she knew nothing about the murder. And apparently, Tracey's initial story almost convinced the police because, due to prevailing stereotypes that doubted a woman's capability for such brutal violence, in spite of her size, officers just did not think a female was capable of committing such an atrocity.
Yeah.
Moreover, there was evidence that after the victim's death, which I said, someone had inserted their fingers deep into the wounds, an act the officers could not readily attribute to a woman.
Oh, wait, what was that other case where they're like, Juana Barraza?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surely this must be a man.
Exactly. And people are like, we saw a woman fleeing the scene. Nah.
Nah, couldn't be.
The skepticism was also reinforced by the time. So the statistics from the Australian Institute of Criminology notes that in 1990 to 1991, only 10% of homicide offenders were female, which just further fueled their doubts about Tracey's direct involvement. Furthermore, females tend to kill men who are emotionally and physically closest to them, particularly husbands or lovers, not strangers.
Yep.
And they generally kill to improve their lifestyle. To that end, the most common motive is financial gain, whereas for men, it's often sexual gain.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Not just like snapping or rage or...
No. But when police searched Tracey's car, they discovered the now crumpled up and brown-stained towel that she'd used to wipe the blood from herself and the knife. Remember when she washed off in the river?
Yep.
Additionally, simultaneously, Lisa was at the police, turning Tracey, as well as herself and the other women, into law enforcement after some of her friends urged her to do that.
Yeah.
One police officer told Tracey that they had Lisa's confession, and once they told her that, Tracey dropped the act. She instructed them to start recording and then proceeded to provide them with every gruesome detail of the horrific crime. On October 23rd, 1989, all 4 women were taken into custody and charged with Edward Balduck's murder. Through further investigation, it was determined that 1 week before the murder, Tracey sharpened 2 knives on a stone and replayed a video over and over and over again depicting someone's head exploding after being shot.
Ooh, interesting.
Tracey was psychologically assessed, even though she denied having ever identified as being a vampire. Still, medical experts identified approximately 5 distinct personalities within Tracey Wigginton.
Oh.
They were Little Tracey, who embodied innocence, Big Tracey, who suffered from severe depression, the Observer, who was emotionally detached and disconnected, Bobby, who was aggressive and violent, and Avril, who was essentially the reincarnation of her violent grandmother and very closely mirrored all of her appalling traits.
Little Tracey, Big Tracey,
The Observer,
Bobby, and Avril.
Yeah. Experts determined that Bobby and Avril would have been capable of committing murder. In an effort to understand these complex inner dynamics, Tracey was placed under hypnosis during an evaluation. Dr. Chris Clark from the University of New South Wales prompted her to recount the murder and observed that Tracey's demeanor abruptly shifted to that of Bobby, and that when that happened, she stated in a growled voice, "I want him."
So the personality, split personality disorder, right?
The multiple personality disorder, which is now known as dissociative identity disorder.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
Well, after I said what I said.
Okay.
The only thing that makes me think I don't have that
Oh, boy.
is the fact that I remember what I do. The idea of a personality from within me emerging and acting on my behalf and me or any of the other personalities not remembering it is very scary to me. Like incredibly scary.
Yeah.
But when you have that deep of a fractal split from who you are as a child, yeah, I guess it just must be more extreme and more pronounced.
Yeah, she likely developed these personalities, which we're going to get into, obviously as coping mechanisms to get through her horrific, upbringing.
Yeah.
And she would retreat, so she wouldn't have to experience the abuse and the rapes. Shit time for a pop quiz.
Well, do it anyway. Do it scared.
While under hypnosis, what happened? A, Tracey attempted to beat Dr. Clark with her belt, likely when she was associating with Avril. B, Tracey described in vivid detail how she wanted to collect the teardrops of virgins in glass jars, believing they held magical properties.
Okay.
C, Tracey indicated that she wanted to slice the top off of someone's head so she could watch them think.
B.
No, made it up.
Damn. Really strange.
Yeah.
A.
No.
Then it must be... Give me a second. I want to just double check my work here. I don't want to make any rushing mistakes. C.
Yes, nailed it.
Wow.
Under hypnosis, Tracey said, quote, "I'd like to slice the top off someone's head and say, 'Think. Let me see you think.'"
Rocktario.
Yeah. She didn't jizz on it, but yeah.
I'm just jizzing on my brain. Man, I'm pulling in a lot of cases this episode.
I know. Her illness was so extreme, according to Dr. Clark, that she couldn't even recognize herself when she was shown a video of the first police interview in the days following the murder.
Wow.
Tracy claimed that she had no memory of the actual attack or even losing her bank card or anything from that night. Multiple personality disorder, again now known as dissociative identity disorder, is a very complex mental health condition, often rooted in severe trauma.
Yeah.
The majority of people with DID endured a severely abusive childhood and disassociate as a way of coping with a situation that is just too violent or too traumatic for their conscious self to handle.
Yeah.
This defense mechanism allows the individual to distance themselves from the trauma by creating alternate identities, effectively disassociating the experiences as if they happened to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
DID is characterized by the presence of two or more distinct identities called alters, personalities, or parts that control the individual's behavior, though its validity has been debated, as seen during Tracy's trial, where a psychiatrist dismissed the condition as a fabrication by well-intentioned doctors. Estimates on the prevalence, however, of DID vary widely, and few studies are available using up-to-date diagnostic criteria. In the general community, though, it's estimated that around 1.5% of U.S. adults meet diagnostic criteria for DID, but other studies estimate that it's more common because DID is often underreported. And I do want to say that treatment and support can help people with DID lead long and fulfilling lives.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody with DID goes on to create horrific crimes. You know, it's not a universal experience or behavior.
No.
I wanted to point that out.
Just part of the puzzle.
Right. For Tracy, yeah.
Yeah.
It has been revealed that the cycle of abuse within the Wigginton family, detailed in Ron Hick's book, The Vampire Killer, extended back generations, because it turned out that Avril Wigginton was herself a victim of a traumatic and abusive upbringing.
Of course.
And unfortunately replicated this pattern of violence and mistreatment in her own parenting. She'd been sexually abused by an uncle who adopted her when she was 11 years old.
God.
As a teenager, Avril was beaten with a bottle and raped on a train track by a family friend. When she married George Wigginton in the 1930s, Avril learned that she was unable to have children, which prompted them to adopt.
Yeah.
And once those children wound up in the quote-unquote care of George and Avril, the cycle of abuse and assault continued.
Yeah.
In terms of the trial, Tracy was the only one among the 4 co-accused to plead guilty to a first-degree murder charge, thus foregoing a drawn-out trial. Last pop quiz.
Why does that forego a long, drawn-out trial?
There's nothing to refute. I did it.
What about the other 3?
They pled not guilty to their charges.
And they had a trial?
Yeah, the 3 of them did. How long did the trial and sentencing process last for Tracey Wigginton? A, 9 minutes. B, 3.5 hours. C, 1 day.
A?
Yes.
9 minutes.
Going out strong. 9 minutes, which, by the way, is the distance between my birth and my twin sister's birth.
Wow.
9 minutes.
And who's older?
Me.
Yeah.
The middle child.
Should have known that.
As a result of there not being an extensive trial, the court received very limited information about the motives behind the incident.
Yeah.
But her accomplices, Lisa, Kim, and Tracy Waugh, claimed that Tracey Wigginton had professed vampiric tendencies, asserting that the murder was committed to facilitate the drinking of the victim's blood. And she did drink his blood.
Yeah.
And the media, globally, of course, caught wind of this case and foamed at the mouth, running headlines about the bloodthirsty, quote-unquote, lesbian vampire killer and her coven of Satan-worshipping lesbian lackeys. I mean, that lackeys went up.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Needless to say, in 1991, the Supreme Court of Queensland convicted Tracey Wigginton of murder and sentenced her to life in prison with a minimum term of 13 years. Lisa was also found guilty of murder and sentenced to life, but was released in 2008 after 17 years. And Kim was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 18 years, of which she served 12. Tracy Waugh, interestingly, was acquitted.
She was not at the scene, right?
She was in the car. I mean,
I don't know. I don't think Tracy or Lisa, whoever was the one that went to the police.
Or Kim.
whatever, whoever they were. I mean, accomplice, I guess, maybe, but not really. I mean, this woman was acting out of control. She killed somebody. They got back in the car and they went to the police.
But well, not really. So first, remember, they went hunting. Like they were all in the car looking for a victim.
True.
They coerced him in the car. Lisa brought him down to the river, let Tracey use her knife. But she did go to the police after the fact.
Right.
They're not wholly innocent, but they are not close to Tracey Wigginton.
I'm not saying they're innocent at all. I'm just saying like it's a very different situation between Tracey and those three.
Agree. In Brisbane Women's Prison, Tracey apparently did mostly well, earning herself the nickname Fang. She worked in the prison library and eventually gained a Bachelor of Arts with majors in anthropology and philosophy. She did attack another inmate as well as a guard in 2006 after she'd been transferred to a minimum security facility in the Gold Coast hinterland. So her time incarcerated was not completely peaceful or without incident.
Yeah.
After making 4 unsuccessful parole applications, Tracey was finally released in 2012 after serving 22 years behind bars.
Where is she?
She's down under.
Where?
Far away from you here.
Okay.
At 46 years old and suffering from diabetes, she was much heavier than when she entered prison and needed to walk with the aid of crutches by the time she was released. But aside from that, not much seemed to have changed because in 2019, Tracey made very concerning Facebook posts saying, quote, "Panic because I'm back." On a Facebook page with the name of one of her alter egos, she proceeded to post pictures of vampires, witches, demons, and a pile of skulls and bones. And one post said, verbatim, this is actually the last PQ, which of the following statements?
Okay.
Pop quiz.
Her Facebook status. Getting thirsty, LOL, blood drop emoji.
Not bad.
Okay.
A, have you ever walked with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Okay.
B, do not meddle with the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and good with ketchup. C, hold me, thrill me, fuck me, kill me.
That's from the same movie as Walk with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight, right?
2 different Batmans, but yes.
Wow. Big Batman fan.
Yeah. So anyway, what was her Facebook post?
B.
Yes. Which, I didn't mean to say it like that, but for anybody who reads Room on a Broom to their children, which is like a favorite in my household, it's also a movie. They've animated it. Mm-hmm. The dragon is chasing a witch and he gets her and he says, just this once, I'll have witch without fries. And it reminded me of that. But she wrote, do not meddle with the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and good with ketchup.
Not a quote from the book, but similar?
Similar.
Okay.
Reminded me of it. Dragon, ketchup, french fries.
Yeah, of course. I see where you made that connection.
Finally, I'd like to leave off with telling you about an interview with the Courier Mail from behind bars in 1996, when Tracey remarked that she'd been in a state of blind fury when she murdered poor innocent Edward Balduck. She said she had, in the moments she was taking his life, released repressed rage from a childhood filled with abuse. Mm-hmm. She stated, 6 years on, I can still smell the river, the smell of blood, the smell of metal that has been left to rust in the rain. Then I started to stab him. You think nothing. Nothing goes through your mind. There is no emotion, just blind fury. But once I started, I couldn't stop. I couldn't see Mr. Baldock. I kept seeing my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, my father, and all the people in my life who had hurt me. It was such blind fury, I was able to pick a dead man up with 2 knives. Afterwards, I sat down against the roller door with my arms resting on my knees. I was like a husk or the shell of a volcano. The public has no idea what my dreams are like at nighttime. It's never over. I don't think about it constantly, but whenever I'm alone or having a quiet moment, I think about it and then I cry. Murder is a terrifying experience. It's extremely scary to have that much power. It's playing God with life and death. Nobody should have that sort of power, but we all do.
Yeah.
And that's the case.
Wow. And she's out, huh?
Yep, she's out. Wow. So that's the case of the
Lesbian Vampire Killer.
Infamous Lesbian
Tracey
Vampire Killer.
Wigginton.
Yeah. I can't, that name gets me.
Why?
I struggle to say it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So creepy, because I love cases that bring in like a little spooky stuff,
Yeah.
the lore. I don't love the way that it manifested here in this case, of course.
Yeah.
And poor Edward, he was a grandfather.
Yeah. Thank you for doing all that hard work. That must have been a lot.
Yeah.
Actually.
It's really sad. It's really devastating. But it's like her psychology is so fascinating. It's awful, and I feel sorry for what she. This is always where we land in these cases.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for what she experienced, but also I don't love that she's out.
I don't love that she's out either.
And I worry, and I feel terribly for his family. You know, he left behind children, grandchildren, his wife.
It must be just.
And the fact that his killer is on the loose and making Facebook posts like that and taunting, I don't feel great about that.
No.
You know what I mean? So, you know, I just pray for everybody's safety, and I hope that he's resting in peace, that poor man.
There should be some kind of social media registry also.
That's interesting. I like that idea a lot.
Like, you can't fucking be on Facebook, dude.
You can't.
Writing things about, related to
panic because I'm out.
The reason, no, yeah, that should be screaming fire in a crowded movie theater.
Yes.
Style stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Let's make that into law.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you for sitting here and listening and participating in the wonderful way that you always do.
It was my pleasure.
I was wondering if you could share with us a Tank's titty.
Of course I can.
Great. Let's go.
They are ready.
As always.
Okay, I do have one. It's a little strange, though.
Oh, yeah. I like strange.
Okay, it's not really a tidbit. It's more of like a perspective shift that I had.
Shift my perspective. Let's go.
Okay. Everyone-ish kind of maybe a little bit thinks that the way they grew up is normal and what they do is normal. And anybody who deviates from that is somewhat, maybe just a little strange, right? Even though you may be the strange one. In the case of, I heard a story the other day about some guy who was talking about drinking his brother-in-law's whole bottle of scotch.
It's better than what I thought you were going to say.
At a holiday party.
Okay.
Okay? So, like, people have a bottle of scotch for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's still there and, like, maybe a quarter full, if not half full. Okay? So to drink a whole bottle of scotch makes absolutely no sense. It makes even less sense because I tend to, like, draw parallels between food and alcohol and drugs. So the guy in his active phase was like, it's a big deal, dude. I drink a bottle of scotch. And then I was like, just for a second, I said this to him after. I was like, just for a second, imagine you just went hunting, okay? And you got a deer and you had 40 pounds of meat in your freezer. You're at the holidays, you're hanging out, you're talking to your family, whatever. You go in the freezer to go get some meat to make, and it's gone. Somebody ate it all.
Like that night?
In 3 hours. You'd be like, what the hell happened here? When you, like, I feel like when you switch things around, like famously, I've told this story a million times, not famously, whatever, get a little ahead of myself there. I was drinking one night before I was going out drinking.
Pre-drinking.
Pre-gaming. However, I didn't understand what pre-gaming really was until about 3 months ago. When I saw a guy who I follow, like this bodybuilder type of guy, he goes, I'm eating 2 eggs before I go out to dinner. That way I make better choices.
You know who does that?
Who?
Me.
Okay.
I've told you that before. I never go out to eat hungry.
No, you've never told me that before. But
okay,
thank you.
Yes.
For telling me now.
That's
okay,
yes.
Strengthens my my support of this. So people pregame, I'd be like, oh, I want to save money. I'd never save money. I was pre-gaming because I couldn't wait to drink.
Right. Well,
I needed an extra 2 or 3 hours of drinking before we went out.
Yeah. He said he did it to save money?
People say that.
Oh,
I've heard that many
really?
times.
Oh, I never knew that. I thought it was just to get the party started a little earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
An appetizer.
Yeah. So my mom said to me one night, she's like, why are you drinking? It's Wednesday night. I was like, I'm about to go to the bar. She goes, and drink, right? I go, yeah. She's like, then why are you drinking now? I was like, Mom, shut up. If I have to explain it, I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it years later, like if I went to go pick her up for dinner, to go out to dinner, and she was sitting there eating a hamburger and French fries.
Mm-hmm. You'd be like, what are you doing?
Why are you eating? We're going out to eat right now.
Well, I ate a turkey sandwich on the way to eating when we went to the steakhouse in the city, the four of us.
Really?
Yeah, I had a full turkey sandwich.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So I kind of get that.
Okay. Maybe you have issues on the other side.
I might.
Yeah. Maybe you understand alcoholism now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's not a compulsion to do it. It's just, if I don't do it, it's also okay. You know what I mean? I just prefer the way I feel at a restaurant when I'm not ravenous and barking at the poor waiter to check on my food.
Or eating bread.
Or filling up on other stuff. Or if I sit down and have a drink and I haven't eaten, I'm now wrecked at dinner.
Cannot relate even a little bit.
I know.
Yeah. However, I do want to thank you again for doing all that hard work and putting it into such an easy to digest package.
Unintended, because we're talking about food. Thank you.
Exactly. And it was very easy to sit here and listen to it. And I hope whoever else is here at this point had a great time also.
I hope so too. Thank you, Tank. Thank you for all that you do. And thank you for being so supportive. It makes me pumped to go home and go research the next one.
Yeah, I was listening to an episode of Psychopedia today to do Unhinged, and pretense aside, what the fuck does pretense mean? There's no expectation from you on me. You don't know I'm going to do this. And I just don't want you to think I'm saying this for no reason. You're so good at this.
Thank you.
You're really, 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 really good at this.
Thank you. Look at my eyes welling up. You want to get me to cry one of these days?
No. I've just
you're coming close.
I've just never met somebody or listened to somebody who the time you put in is just, it's so apparent. It's so evident. It's like the guy, bring it back to bodybuilding. It's so obvious when somebody prepared for it and when they didn't, even though they worked out, they dieted, all that, whatever. It's I
think what you're explaining is heart and passion.
No, it's further than that. It's excellence.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much. That means so much to me.
Yeah. You're never you know what? Oh, fuck, I forgot. Well, I'm missing this part here. You should feel my brain when I'm doing Psychopedia.
You crush it.
It's a constant panic though. I'm like, wait, where the hell am I going?
Oh, it was so good. Everybody should join Patreon for the Psychopedias because, especially this last one that we just recorded.
Yeah.
So good.
We just did the Hawk to a meme coin scandal, which was a lot of fun for me.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you made it this far, you're a real-ass Psychopedia listener.
You are. Thank you. Thank you for being a real-ass Psychopedia listener. We love you.
We appreciate you being here. And we will see you guys at the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Bye.